Welcome to week 4 of the NFL opening line report. I am TommyFreezePops, and what an interesting Sunday night game we had there, where Josh McDaniels making one of the more boneheaded coaching decisions I've seen in a long time, and the internet's all talking about it. They're also talking about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. I don't know if you heard, guys. She was at Arrowhead today. I promise you, we're not going to do any more talk about that on this show. We are going to look ahead to week 4 of the NFL calendar, your earliest look at the betting lines, who you should bet on, what numbers you should take advantage of now before they move. We have a pretty interesting slate for week 4. So let's go ahead and bring in the fellas to talk about the games. Our guy, Monotone Betting, joining us from the greater DC area, and our man, Analytics Capper, joining us from Dallas. I'm sure he is probably not in that great a mood today after what we saw from the Cowboys, unless he was on the Cardinals in some capacity. I want to pitch it to you here quickly off the top here, Analytics Capper. What happened with your boys today? 30 seconds.
Well, I was on the Cardinals, so a very happy result for me. I actually didn't think that they would win outright, but every dog that I'm on, I also sprinkled the money line, so it ended up being good from a betting perspective. But from a fan perspective, Dak looked terrible, right? Red zone errors are issues all season long. It's something they got to fix if they want to move forward.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about the Cowboys later on in the broadcast as they have an interesting week 4 matchup here with the Patriots. But let's talk about what I think is the best game for week 4. The Miami Dolphins, a 3-point dog heading to Buffalo. You can get the Bills on the money line at -180 and the Dolphins at +150 with a total of 49.5 at the moment. And guys, I don't know how you can make the Dolphins a dog of any type after putting up 70 this week, but I guess that's what we're doing here. Stu, I'll let you hit this one first, and make sure you unmute yourself before you get to this. What do we do here? Dolphins as a dog? Should I jump all over this right now?
Yeah, I think I'm going to, right? I mean, this is one of those situations where the Dolphins have been the best team in football so far this year. They're down to +600 in some spots to win the Super Bowl already, and now we're getting them as 3-point underdogs in a divisional game against a rival team. I don't know, man. It's pretty hard for me to back Buffalo in this matchup. Even the over-under as well. I think we're expecting offense on both sides. I would not be surprised if this is one of those that moves up to 51, 52 by the end of the week. So I like Miami early. I like the over early, and I'd get on both of those as soon as possible.
Yeah, for me, I agree with Stu here. I mean, I think the value here is on the hottest team in the league, the front runner for MVP. And honestly, they weren't even at full strength. I know they were playing against the Denver Broncos, who are just terribly coached, especially defensively. But that total seems very low. Maybe there's going to be bad weather. It is New York. There was bad weather in Northeast this weekend. But man, the way that Miami's playing, they'll cover that 49.5 by themselves.
It's ridiculous what this offense has been able to do in the early part of the season, and maybe we're just scratching the surface too, right? I mean, it's only week 3. Sometimes it takes like 8-9 weeks before an offense really looks as good as it can be for the season. So I mean, I'm terrified as a Patriots fan to see the Dolphins do this. And we had a game, and yes, I say we, against them where we held our own. And I don't know, it just seems like they use that as a building block to go up against Denver, who also did, their service, allowing the Dolphins to do exactly what they wanted to do at all times. The defense was terrible for Denver. So let's not forget about that. Buffalo is definitely going to have a better effort, presumably, than the Denver Broncos did today. So yes, I think it's time to get on Miami now. They might be a favorite by the end of the week. Maybe close to, even, right? I mean, I just think it's going to be a really, really interesting game to watch how the line moves throughout the week. So let's go ahead and take a look at what I think is the second most interesting game of week 4, and that is Baltimore heading to Cleveland. They are 1.5-point favorites. You can get Baltimore on the money line at -120 right now, Cleveland at even odds, and the total is 44. Albert, tell me why I shouldn't be all over the Browns as a dog right now. They looked really good this week.
Yeah, these two teams, I've been very, very fortunate. I've been reading both teams very well this season. I faded Baltimore today. I was on the Browns as well. So nice little 2-0 sweep there. But this is an interesting game. Again, I think Stu knows this, but I hate short favorites in general. So Baltimore getting 1 or getting 2, it's already kind of, my antenna is already up. So the thought process here, and this is a great exercise again to do this early in the week, is why are the Cleveland Browns underdogs? They've been playing really well. I think Deshaun Watson is improving every week. He had a pretty rough first 2 weeks there. I think he played a lot better today. And again, if weather is not an issue here, I'm gonna side with Cleveland because they have the better aerial attack, which means they're a little more explosive. Baltimore, as we all know, with Lamar Jackson, who is elite, is a little more one-dimensional. So I side with you there, Tommy. I do like Cleveland here as the first look.
Yeah, I like Cleveland as well. I mean, let's look at this defense, right? They actually might be the best defense in football right now. And I know you're a Cowboys fan. Obviously, I thought they were the best defense in football coming into the year. But obviously, bringing in Schwartz was a big deal right here. He's kind of known for playing a lot of that man coverage. And I think the corners were the big question mark, right? We knew that defensive line with Myles Garrett, who had 3.5 sacks today, was going to be insane. We already knew that. But those corners playing at a top level, right? Constantly top 5, rated by PFF so far this year. That's when things get a little bit interesting. This Cleveland defense is stellar right now. I am not going against them. Lamar Jackson hasn't really given me reason to believe in him either, right? This hasn't been a super impressive showing so far this year from him. So absolutely love the Browns in this one. I love that defense is playing at a high level. And we got to remember, Baltimore is still down 2 offensive linemen, 2 starting offensive linemen. That's a big deal when you're going against Myles Garrett.
Yeah, and I think what you saw from Cleveland today is, yes, Nick Chubb's gone, but that offense is still chugging. And Deshaun Watson, again, getting incrementally better every week, and he looked pretty good today. And their running game without Chubb, put Ford back there, he was excellent. So they're going to control the pace of the game. Baltimore has been banged up this season. I know that they've won in spite of that, but I think this is the first wake-up call game for Baltimore this year where, look, you're just not going to be at that echelon of the top AFC teams when you're going to be this injured and you're relying so much on Lamar's legs to bring you to victory. So I think I'm going to be on the Browns here as well. 2 dogs early here for week 4 from the fellas. I love it. Let's go to a game where the dog is definitely not going to be backed, unless I'm missing something here. You guys tell me. The Jets are 7-point dogs at home as Patrick Mahomes plays his first game in the greater New York area ever in his career. The Chiefs -360 on the money line, the Jets at +285, and the total at 44.5. And the reason why I had this so high on the list is purely because of what the Chiefs were able to do today against a Bears team that has had maybe one of the worst weeks in the history of the NFL for both on and off the field stuff. And it culminated in that embarrassing loss at Arrowhead today. So the Chiefs take their show on the road here. They're touchdown favorite. I could see that number going up a little bit as the week goes on because the Jets looked really bad today. And look, the Patriots took care of business. I was happy to see that. I didn't think the Pats looked all that good, but I was happy to see them get the win. So to see that Jets offense do nothing, I don't know that we're going to be seeing the Jets look any better against maybe the best team in the AFC. Analytics Capper, what do you got here?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Chiefs line is definitely going to go up. 7 seems like a discount, especially coming off a blowout win against the Bears. And the Jets for a large portion of the game today, because I was following them. Thankfully, I was not on the Jets, but I was following that game, and they had more plays than yards for much of the first half. I still don't know how they got 3 points before halftime, but yes, that offense is struggling. I think it's more than Zach Wilson, right? It's just they're just very inept. I think they have a lot of talent. There's a lot of weapons and speed on the outside, but there's just a missing link there in terms of chemistry. And again, I think it's more than just a quarterback position. With that said, I think Coach Saleh has to do something there with the quarterback, with the signal caller. I think the morale is gone there with the team. I think the belief is gone. So don't be surprised. I know it's against the Super Bowl champs here at KC in a short week, but don't be surprised if they do make a quarterback change. I know he's been against it this whole time, but you can't just roll with Zach Wilson. It's just terrible right now.
Yeah, why is Gardner Minshew is already on a team. Why have we not called Phillip Rivers? Carson Wentz is just sitting over on the sidelines. I mean, there are guys that have proven to be at least mid-level NFL starters that are still available, and we're rolling out Zach Wilson week after week. I mean, you kind of mentioned missing pieces on this team. The defense can't perform at an elite level when they have to go out drive after drive after drive because of all those 3 and outs, right? If the offense can't keep them off the field, then it's really grasping at straws to ask that really strong defense to do anything for you just because they're being dominated in time of possession. So for me, I would be very surprised if the Jets could play a competitive game. I'm not sure what their team total is going to open at, but I would very strongly recommend taking the under. I think the Chiefs defense is actually a little bit underrated, and I think I'm going to take advantage of that as the season goes on and on. Those young corners are fighting on the outside. If you watch McDuffie, he looks really, really good out there. I think this Chiefs defense is a little underrated, and I don't think Zach Wilson's going to be able to move the ball. So this line's going to be 11 by Sunday. This is the opening line report for a reason, right? We get here as soon as possible. We get those early lines. If it's still 7 by the time the show's over, I'm going to be running to get that down.
Yeah, and you guys both hit on it. The quarterback thing is ridiculous. And Robert Saleh seems like the type of guy that wants to say the right thing and be the ultimate football guy and he's our guy. We're backing Zachy. Yeah, but dude, at a certain point, you got to make that switch. The guy looks terrible back there. And, with all the buzz there was around this team with Aaron Rodgers, and yes, they got that opening night win, and then they go down to Dallas and just get absolutely spanked. It feels like they lost the spark. And, can you blame them? You go from having this high of having Aaron Rodgers coming in to save your franchise when you have all this young talent. You're all right, let's go. The window's now. And then it's just gone. And the guy that you get replaced with is Zach freaking Wilson, who is probably the worst quarterback starting in the NFL. So it's a brutal situation there for the Jets. And I can't say I feel bad because I don't like the Jets. Let's talk about a team I do like. They are 7.5-point dogs heading to Dallas. That's the New England Patriots. Dallas, obviously, we talked about it off the top here. Maybe the most surprising loss of the weekend, although the Jaguars getting kind of blown out by the Texans is pretty surprising as well. Cowboys on the money line, -360. Pats at +285 in the total at 42. And I know me personally, I will not be touching the Patriots in any way. I do not trust this team. They barely scraped out a win against the Jets. Bad weather aside, the Jets are really bad, as we just talked about. I know Dallas just had that really, really embarrassing loss in Arizona, but I also think Arizona is a little bit better than we all realized. They clearly are being coached well. Their defense seems fast, and they're a bunch of playmakers. And look, Josh Dobbs is doing the job. If Josh Dobbs was the Jets quarterback right now, I think we'd be talking about the Jets in a much different fashion. So I don't know. I'm going to kind of give the Cowboys a little bit more of a pass for what we saw. Obviously, they lost Diggs in the secondary this past week. But I'll throw it to our Cowboys fan friend off the top here, Analytics Capper, first. And you tell me why the Cowboys are going to take care of business against my Patriots. Because I agree with you. I don't even need to hear what you have to say.
I do like Dallas in this game. It's a great bounce back for them. They're back home. And red zone, I know when you look at the law of large numbers, red zone opportunities and being able to score a touchdown, there's a little bit of regression there. So I do expect the Cowboys to be a lot more successful in the red zone moving forward. It might come in bunches, right? It might come in 2 or 3 games where they go 8 for 8 or something like that. But I do see that this is a bounce back game for the offense. I think the missing, with Trayvon Diggs going down is a loss that people kind of underrated. I know people don't like him. I know he takes a lot of gambles, and he gets a lot of picks. With that being said, though, he is their best corner, and I think we see Stephon Gilmore, who is solid, one of the best number 2 corners, right, heading into the season. But asking him to be the number 1 corner is a lot different. He was a little lost today in the secondary a couple times. And then not only is he sliding up to number 1, but everybody else has to slide up. Deron Bland, who's a great young player, is now a starting caliber cornerback at number 2, which he might not be ready for, and so forth. So I do think the secondary is going to be an issue moving forward. But for this game, I'm not afraid of Mac Jones if I'm the Cowboys secondary. I do think they come back and bounce back and cover the 7.5.
Yeah, and I kind of like the under in this game as well. I like this Dallas defense to have a strong bounce back. Obviously, Minka Parsons wasn't even involved until the second half, right? Really was kind of a no-show in that first half, which is a huge surprise considering you're going against an Arizona offensive line that's kind of notoriously weak. So I agree. I think you nailed a lot of the stuff right there, right? We want to take advantage of no Trayvon Diggs in the secondary, but New England really isn't the team to do that, right? They don't have those weapons that you're super scared of downfield. Devontae Parker just got shut down this week, and I kind of expect that in a similar matchup against Gilmore on the outside next week. I think a guy like Kendrick Bourne, once again, might have a pretty good game over the middle, but overall, I would lean Dallas to win. I'm not betting Dallas to cover, though. Honestly, I don't know if I can trust Dak Prescott against a very strong defense and very strong coaching in Bill Belichick, right? If there's one side of this Patriots team I trust, it's the defense, right? And when I have that 7-point lead, I don't trust Dak to not throw an interception in the fourth quarter and the Patriots to come back and get you a backdoor cover here.
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the under call here because they are 2 really good defenses. And I'm with you with the Patriots not having the playmakers. And then on top of that, they're banged up. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster looks like he just doesn't want to be out there. Like, can that guy get the hell out of here at this point? Out on Juju. And then Hunter Henry, he got banged up at the end of the game. I know he ended up playing a few more snaps here and there, but that's Mac Jones's binky. So you're going to take Mac Jones's binky away. I like Kendrick Bourne over the middle, but there's a few plays a game where you're like, Kendrick, why didn't you catch that? Or him and Mac aren't 100% on the same page yet. And then you said Devontae Parker got shut down. Devontae Parker's been shut down since he arrived in New England. Let's be completely honest here. That guy has been a massive disappointment. So I'm with you on the under call here. And I don't know. I think I might be apt to take the Cowboys to cover, although I do think that this number is going to fall throughout the week. I bet that you can probably get this at like 5.5 midweek. And that's where I would feel probably more comfortable taking the Cowboys. So speaking of the Cowboys, we mentioned them a little bit before we talked about this game with the Pats. The Cardinals, they are 14.5-point dogs heading to San Francisco, who many think is the best team in the NFL. You can get the Niners at minus 950 on the money line. I don't know why you would do that. Maybe include it in some sort of parlay or teaser, but I don't know. I wouldn't do that. And you can get the Cardinals at plus 625, the total at 41. It's a big number, but we just saw what the Cardinals were able to do to Dallas. I gave my little spiel on the Cardinals, but Monotone betting, why don't you give us your first run at this massive underdog with the Cardinals heading to for San Francisco? How do we handle this one?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like the Cardinals at this 14.5 number. I didn't think I would be saying that maybe at the start of the season, but like all the reasons we said a minute ago, they're a scrappy team. I said this after the Washington win, and a lot of people kind of laughed at me. Oh, you're just kind of defending your team for not looking good. But I really do believe in addition by subtraction sometimes, right? When you kick out all the pieces that clearly weren't working for you last year, and you bring in a bunch of young, scrappy, hungry guys, and instead of, right, your traditional, oh, we're going to sit back and deep cover 2, Gannon's calling up some real unique coverage schemes. They're not like mind-breaking and the results aren't amazing, but you got to realize he's overcompensating for a lack of talent with some very creative scheming, which I know kind of sounds like common sense. Like, oh yeah, coaches would do smart things when we hire them to, but that doesn't really happen that often in the NFL. We don't see that much innovation. So for me, I've been very impressed with what I've seen from Arizona even before this win, just when they were hanging around and fighting these competitive battles in these first couple games. So I think Arizona sticks around. We got to remember, this is the ultimate division of teams just randomly murdering each other, right? When San Francisco was bad, they were beating the Rams when they were good. It's a constant cycle in this division of the bad teams consistently upsetting and sticking around the good teams. It always happens. Ask any 49er fan out there. So I like Arizona at this super large number. I think San Francisco wins, but I think it'll be a pretty competitive game.
Yeah, for me, the line reads it's going to be a blowout. It's like a low total with a high spread, right? It's kind of like a 33-7 type of game, maybe 38-3 type of game. But you guys mentioned it. Arizona has come out strong in first halves all season long, right? I think they not only beat the Cowboys outright in the first half, but they beat in week 2, right? They covered in the first half as well. So it's a well-coached team. There's a lot of young talent with a lot of hunger, right? They're not there trying to lose, which is what everybody is saying, right? They're trying to get the number 1 pick and they play their cards right. They could get the first 2 picks, right? But there's more to it than that. These are guys, these are professionals, and it's any given Sunday. With that being said, Brock Purdy is such on a roll right now. He doesn't make many mistakes. Even on games where he's off, he's not turning the ball over, which is the biggest difference between, in my opinion, a good quarterback and a great quarterback. Because you might not have it every single game, but as long as you take care of the ball, don't turn it over, and allow your elite defense to take over the game, then you're good. And I think Brock Purdy is playing that role perfectly. So for me, I do think it's going to be kind of like a check back to reality for Josh Dobbs and the Cardinals there, because now you're playing a step up against arguably the best defense in the league. Maybe it's the Cowboys, maybe it's the Browns, but this is a healthy defense, right? This is not something that the Cowboys, you just face in the Cowboys, and you're traveling west to San Francisco, which you usually know it's windy, it could be cloudy, it could be drizzly, so that's going to be more advantageous for the defense as well. So for me, I'm going to be on the team total under Cardinals here because I think the defense is going to shut out Arizona.
And you brought up an interesting point about the number 1 pick conversation. You know, we've always talked about leading up to this season how it was like, oh, the Cardinals going to tank for Caleb Williams here. What are they doing with their roster? This is so weird. It feels like the Bears are now in the pole position for that. And again, they just had the number 1 pick in their grasp, traded it away, obviously. But to go back-to-back number 1 picks would be, I think, unprecedented in the modern era. I can't remember a back-to-back number 1 pick situation. So that would be just atrociously bad for all of our Bears followers out there. So apologies in advance. But hey, maybe you'll get Caleb Williams. You'll trade Justin Fields. Be interesting to see how that all plays out. But it might be time to get on the Bears first pick bets here. Get your futures tickets on that because it's looking bad. What do you think?
Can I just say, as a Caleb Williams fan, I hope that doesn't happen. Like, I really hope that doesn't happen because Caleb Williams is so good. And I think he can overcome so many different opportunities, so many different teams. But this Bears team is just so inept, right? Everything we're seeing on the field, off the field, but even beyond that, right? This is a team that had so many holes last year, both on offense, both on defense. They choose to trade the first overall pick. And what do they spend their money on in the offseason? You think, oh, we're going to build a strong offensive line. Maybe we'll shore up the corners that were some of the worst in the league. No, they paid 2 off-ball linebackers with all of their free agent money last year. That's what they did to build towards the future. This is not a team I want to see Caleb Williams go to. Please, just no. Number 2 pick, number 3, something else. Just please don't let that happen.
Yeah, and they got rid of Roquan. It's like if you're gonna build, like you give away one of the best players in the NFL instead of trying to, repair that relationship. So it's an inept organization. There's no doubt. You have to think that if they're in the number 1 pick conversation again, Eberflus is going to be gone. He's not the right guy for the job. And if you're drafting a quarterback number 1 overall, you probably want to have an offensive guy at the helm. But that's enough Bears talk for now. Let's talk about the NFC North here. A last game we're going to talk about Thursday night. The Lions, and I believe this is up to 2. I think they are 2-point dogs at the moment at Green Bay. The money line, Packers -120. You can get the Lions at even odds, and the total is 46. Both teams got wins today. I think the Lions, they clearly showed that they could shut down that Falcons offense that's looked pretty good through the early part of the season, but not like a huge explosive effort on offense. And the Packers kind of eked out that win there. Really interesting game against the Saints to get the 1-point victory. So I don't know. I'm going to probably stay away from this one. I don't really trust either team yet. Maybe going to be on the under 46. I know that's not like a fun thing to go out and, celebrate here, but that's kind of how I'm feeling at the moment. AC, what do you got?
I love the Lions in this spot. I think Green Bay got really, really lucky. First of all, as a bettor, I was on the Saints plus 1.5, so I got really lucky in that game.
Ooh.
But the Packers down 17-0. Derek Carr goes out with, looks like a shoulder injury, maybe a chest injury, something, for his upper body. Jameis Winston comes in, and for some reason, they decide to stop running the ball. They were up 17 in the fourth quarter. Instead of milking the clock, they're making Winston throw the ball, and they had like 3 or 4 straight 3-and-outs. So, I mean, they got the Packers, in my opinion, got really lucky. And of course, Jordan Love also got hurt. He also executed. The team themselves as a full team executed, not only offensively, but defensively and special teams. So props to them. They deserve all the credit in the world for that comeback. But in a similar situation against Detroit with a lot more weapons, in my opinion, and if Jared Goff doesn't get hurt, I just think that the Lions here is a great spot. Again, it's a divisional game on the road. These games tend to be really close and tends to be really coin flippy in the end. And right now, I like the Lions more as a team than the Packers.
Yeah, and I just checked too. I see the Lions as -1 for me. So I don't know if there's been some line movement or what right there. But to be honest, if you ask me to make the spread, I think I'd probably make it like the Lions -3 at least, right? I don't really understand Green Bay getting respect from this game because I don't think they deserve it. Green Bay looked awful today. I don't care what the box score tells you. I don't care what, the ESPN app looks like when you wake up in the morning. They deserve to lose that game. And the only reason they didn't is because the Saints are a terribly coached team that just did not know what to do when they lost their quarterback, right? I think most people would rank Winston as one of the better backups in the league, but that was just an awful game plan. Like AC said, completely abandoned the run for no real reason. There was never any momentum, nothing. It was just a bunch of very odd play calls that led them to lose that game. I think the Packers have a strong defense. I'm not super high on the Lions overall, but I still do think they're kind of clearly the better team in this matchup. So for me, I think the obvious lean is to the Lions on this side.
Yeah, it's another situation where we're, giving a defensive-minded coach a hard time here. And it seems like as we're moving forward here and we're hiring coaches, maybe it makes sense to be hiring guys that are offensive masterminds, a guy like, Mike McDaniel's down in Miami. Let's kind of lean that way instead of the Saints replacing Sean Payton with, a defensive-minded guy. Probably not for the best, especially when you already have a strong defense. Like that was probably the wrong hire here.
Yeah, for me, Tommy, it's not even like a mastermind. I just need someone that is competent on offense, right? Someone that
give me Zach Taylor.
Yeah, not even design or game plan amazing plays during the game, but like understand situational circumstances throughout. Understand time of clock, the clock, the time of possession. Like understand your players, right? Your players are gonna want to block running the ball, especially when they're up. So your offensive line would rather prefer to push forward instead of having to be on their heels all the time. So, I mean, I agree with Stu here. I think that was 100% a coaching loss, and it's a shame because that defense played super well. I'm talking about the Saints played super well for 3.5 quarters, and it ended up losing because just terrible coaching at the end.
Well, AC, thank you as always for joining us here on the opening line report. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
No final thoughts. Thank you again for having me on. For those who are just watching this show for the first time, I think it's just it's a really great exercise to do it if you want to become a serious bettor, is to definitely catch these lines early. And it doesn't mean you have to bet them right away on Sunday night. but definitely put them in your memory bank. Start analyzing why these games open the way they are, and then monitor it throughout the week to see where they go. For example, we just talked about the Lions, right? It might have opened at +1. And I think the reaction from bettors right away was on Detroit, and it's already up to -2. And I agree with Stu. It's probably going to be a field goal by Sunday. So, or I think it's a Thursday night game. But yeah, thank you for having me on. Love doing this every week and looking forward to it next week.
Great. AC, thank you so much. And before we get out of here, we're going to hit the final segment of the show, as we always do here on Sundays. It's Monotone Football's early prop leans. Obviously, we're going to wait till later in the week to get a lot of these numbers, but that's not a deterrent for us to look at some stuff early and take a little notes. Make sure you bookmark this, come back to it later in the week, and place your bets. So, Stu, the floor is yours. What are you looking at for week 4?
Yeah, and too, I wanted to say, hey, we still got one in the works from last week. If you're watching right now, we started out 2-0, hit Jefferson, receiving yards, hit Josh Allen, longest completion. Then I talked about Puka, who's going still on Monday night tomorrow. So if you're watching this live right now, you could be part of the 3-0 from last week, and now you get a couple more bonus picks. Number one I want to start about is in that Cardinals game. I'm going Kaiser White over tackles and assists. That's right. We're starting out on the defensive side of the ball. He was the one that came up with that big interception at the end of that Cowboys game. But as a linebacker, he's been all over the place. I love these versatile linebackers that you'll see all over the field. And what I really like about defensive props, specifically tackles and assists, is it's very game script dependent, right? So what do we know about the 49ers? They're going to run the ball more than any team in the league. Who makes those tackles, right? It's those linebackers that are there to stop Christian McCaffrey. Additionally, they also get the benefit of those short checkdowns. And Brock Purdy is obviously the king of the short and intermediate game. That's kind of what we know about Kyle Shanahan in general. So I expect that line to be around 7.5. I've been very impressed with what I've seen from White so far, and I really like him to cash that ticket. As for the offensive side of the ball, I know that's probably what most of you guys are here for. I like Josh Allen in a couple different ways. I like Josh Allen completions, and I like Josh Allen's thrown interception. There's one, the whole cover 2 shell philosophy and defense, we can really thank Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen for. I mean, obviously cover 2 has been a thing long before these quarterbacks, but the fact that we're using it at almost historic rates right now is a real kind of indication of how good these guys are and how important it is to slow them down. And obviously bringing in Fangio for this Dolphins team, that was kind of a priority. We want to play more of those 2 deep safety looks. We want to keep everything in front of us, and we want to limit explosive plays. That's going to turn Josh Allen into a little bit more of a check down machine, not something he necessarily loves to do, but something we're seeing him become more comfortable this year, especially with some targets like Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, who are kind of cruising that low short yardage area. So I really like Josh Allen to have a lot of completions, to stack those up. And then I like him to throw an interception as well, because when he plays these 2 deep cover teams, he can't really resist himself. And also he said in an interview, I'm going to have to know my quarterback a little bit more. I'm going to have to play a little bit more cautious, in reference to the criticism about Zach Wilson, right? Of knowing he's on the other side, knowing you can't make those other interception-worthy plays. What he also said is he also understands he still does need to turn up that aggression when he plays high-level teams, when he plays high-level offenses. I think the Dolphins are the number 1 offense in football right now, and I think Josh Allen is going to come into this game incredibly, hyped up, ready to throw the ball about 55, 60 times. I think that should result in an interception. So those are my 2 favorite prop looks for this week.
Yeah, and he loves to throw interceptions, let's be honest. The guy is an aggressive player, and that's what he does. And I made a good amount of money last season betting on that prop, so I think I'm going to be on that one. There's just going to be enough attempts where the math tells you he's going to throw a pick. So that seems like free money to me. And speaking of free money, this app is free. OddsTrader, the website's free. Go ahead, Apple Store, Google Play Store if you're an Android guy. OddsTrader.com. All of this information that we're talking about here, we have the best in class sports betting predictive AI. Go ahead and take advantage of it. Use this video as well. Look at the lines early and make money betting on football. It's that simple. So go to oddstrader.com, put it as a bookmark, do what you got to do, download the app, and join us as we make money throughout the football season. And that's going to do it for the week 4 edition of the NFL opening line report. We still have week 3 to finish up here on Monday night. Puka is kind of banged up. So I don't know how we feel. Do we want to update that prop suggestion here? No, we're still riding strong here.
This is the reception god, the low A-dot god. He was questionable all of last week, a last-minute decision. I think he's good to go. We got Sean McVay. He likes to play around with that injury report a little bit.
That's true. That's true. He's a little shisty when it comes to that. So, all right, we'll see if Puka can get it done on Monday night here. That's Monotone Betting, Stu, Monotone Football, whatever you want to call him. Go follow him. He's got great info. I am Tommy Freeze Pops, and we will see you next Sunday here on the Opening Line Report.